Hey, hey everybody, we're back once again. Three old friends, music everyone. Jesus, we're back again. Three old friends, music never ends with Dave and Mike as usual. No guests this week, just us three talking music. And this week it was my choice, and I thought we'd go a little different. Initially, when I looked at this, I thought, hey, it's kind of more of a free for all kind of thing because you can really choose anything. It's about guitar gods. But when you come down to it, I think, we all kind of took a unique approach to it, which, the way we chose stuff. Now, me being a little, having some time because we took a little time for this one, I looked up, we had 15 guitarists on the list. And of those 15, 12 of them were in the top 50 of the Rolling Stones latest one, I think it was in 2023. Only three of them were outside of that. Now, those three were within the 100 top 10 guitars. So, uh, and you can figure out the top three, the three that were not, which is interesting, were Derek Trucks, Richard Thompson, and let me see if I can remember the other one. It might have been Knopfler, which is kind of interesting. So,
Hmm. Huh.
so anyway, would y'all let me get some opening, comments from y'all before we start. What y'all think?
Well, first off, I think Rolling Stone, they're idiots. That magazine is, and it's the whole thing of rating one after the other. How do you do that? Best song, whatever. Anyway, so I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was surprised. Again, there were a lot more guitar heroes than could possibly fit in, but
Yeah, I knew this one would be a little bit more of a challenge to me, but I knew also I could just go, like I said, go off the top 10 or the top 15. I know there was a few great guitarists that were notably missing from our 15, which it happens for whatever reason, and but I think we did a good job of with the flow of it and with everything. And like I said, there's a couple of them, probably a couple of mine that I probably thought, well, they're not really in the top of the guitar gods and legends or whatever. But I was also looking at it in terms of the song and if it had a guitar solo or if it was something like that. So that was part of the makeup of what songs and what artists to put on.
Right. That's why I say I think we all kind of, I was like with you. First thought was when we did it was, okay, guitar gods. We're going to pick, some bombastic guitar solos and things of that nature. But of course, true to form, y'all surprised me, and of course, we went in some different directions. Now, having said that, I of course kind of went to start it off. I went with what is bad as Rolling Stone can be. They even pick Jimi Hendrix as the number one guitarist. And so I went with Are You Experienced? You could have picked a number of different songs. I've always liked Are You Experienced? I just think it's a great song. It's definitely different. And this is in 1967 when he's first hitting the scene. So, he was kind of the pioneer. He only lasted, what, 3 years basically? And so, when you think about that and what he did in a short amount of time and what he would have done, I always think is, I wonder what he would have done if he got to play with someone like Miles Davis. Would have been, what would that have been like? Something as crazy as that. But anyway, I think that one, I think the song has kind of been emblematic. He uses a lot of different tones. People have never used that. Obviously, a lot of backmasking and stuff like that. So there you go. Enough talking.
yeah, Jimi Hendrix. What can I everything's been said about Jimi Hendrix. I love, I got into him in I guess by the time I was in college, I got smash hits, and then pretty soon after that, I started buying all the albums. But yeah, this is Purple Haze, and this are probably his, by people who just generally, have heard his music, aren't really fans per se. Probably his two best known songs, and this. Oh, what's really notable, I don't know if he does this on other songs, but that backwards guitar solo is just, he recorded it and then they put it on backwards. Not that there's like other guitar work that's straightforward. And I've always wondered, I haven't read. I know there's biographies of him out there. I've always wondered how he did that, not how he reversed it, but like how he chose how to play that where it would sound the way he wanted it to backwards. Um, so anyway, like I said, he's great. What else can I say about him?
Yeah, with I haven't heard this song, I don't think, since I don't know when, back in the day, it's a cool song. Again, I like Purple Haze. I like actually my favorite is the cover of Dylan's song All Along the Watchtower. That's probably my favorite one. Um, but yeah, you just love the guitar work. I heard long ago that he took a right-handed guitar, flipped it over, right, and played it left-handed. Is that what he does? And
He plays
that's
left-handed. So.
what's that?
He's left-handed.
Yeah, he's left-handed, but he took a right-handed guitar,
Yeah, he flips it
flipped
up.
it over, and made it and played it that way, which is very unique and very different. And there's no one like him how he plays, and good way to start off the playlist. And yeah, I don't know how experienced I am, not that experienced, but anyway, yeah, it's a good choice.
I don't know about that.
From there, I don't know where I came up with this song, but I knew that Mike would be beaming if I could find a Richard Thompson song. Richard Thompson's not a guitar hero in the sense that, that we think of maybe, but he wrote this song called Guitar Heroes. And when the first time I heard it, when I was researching this, I went, oh man, this is a way cool song. He starts from the beginning and he basically says, hey, on a Saturday night, I'm going to be making love to my guitar, not going out with my friends, and I'm going to play it till my fingers bleed, and I'm going to learn. And back then, he was talking about the Django way, which was probably in the late 50s, early 60s or something. So he takes us through a musical journey from the Django way to Les Paul to, I mean, it was Creedence Clearwater Revival sounds in there somewhat. There were and he just progressively gets a little, he gets the rock and roll type of thing in there. It takes us kind of all the way through. Maybe he doesn't shred at the end like some of these other people do, but even towards the end, he played a little. It was more electric guitar, and then it was at the. I love the ending because even the ending was one of those. How they build up down and then at the end. So he ended it just like that. And anyway, I thought it was cool. And again, he probably won't win any Guitar Hero awards, but he certainly is good. And I liked how he wrote the song and took us through all the different types of guitar legends.
Yeah, no, I really love this song. Uh, and you can make a case, and I'll say you got a little jazz like that could have been the first song on this playlist, because it kind of encapsulates what we're getting that musical journey. And again, that's what going back to when I initially said, "Hey, let's do guitar." This I wasn't thinking this way, but then wow, this makes perfect sense. He goes through the Django Reinhold, his influence there, then Les Paul, and then I think he says the Shadows is one of those groups, and it's like you said, and we've all, like we've known Richie, and what it takes to really be a great guitarist. Lots of practice, lots of work, and you have a lot of influences. And so, yeah, it was like I said, it could easily have opened this playlist, and I had no qualms about it.
I completely agree about opening the playlist. My initial reaction, you guys hadn't mentioned this, but I was like, no, because I had a song I was going to put on, but it has, it has some great electric guitar work, and I've been wanting to put it on forever. But no, I'm glad you did. This is perfect. Plus, we get like 5 more guitar people in there, so it's a 20 person list. And the thing about what we're talking, about our guitar heroes. I kind of looked at it more like a personal thing, like our personal, not necessarily, he's a incredible guitar player. He plays acoustic. He can play, we've had a number of different examples. He can play some, all kinds of stuff. And but yeah, I mean, you're right. He's not up in that list in Rolling Stone, but
Can I say he was number 80, I think, overall.
see, that's a crime. I bet they had Axl Rose, not Axl
It
Rose.
made the list.
I bet they had Slash way before him, which is just a
I was,
crime.
well, I was kind of stunned that he was number 80. I was like, oh, but again, that just goes to show you that he has a lot of respect for his guitar work. Number 80 because of they had one, the top 250 guitarists.
Oh, okay.
Number 80, boom, you're not doing too shabby. So,
Yeah. And yeah, and so yeah, I like he plays in the style, all these different guys. Who was it with the one who sounded like James Burton? Was he the one from the Shadows? No, Hank Marvin was from the Shadows. And so I've had one or two of those guys' records. But what was I going to say? Oh, just something I read about. Oh, so well he ends is that basically here's all these guys I'm playing in their style, and then here's like how I play, which I thought was really cool. And he does that. The ending you're talking about, I thought it reminded me of like ending for Pete Townsend, where he's like, doing the windmill, that kind of sound. I read, and I may not have this completely right, but this is all done in one go. So he may have cut in and out between these different things. I don't know how that works exactly, but that's laudable if that's the case. So I went from that. But yeah, Dave, thank you. Great choice. Couldn't stand the weather. Stevie Ray Vaughan. I've long liked his music. He This song in particular is probably it was the first album of his I got. It was his second album, and it came out in, I think, 83, 84, somewhere in there. I saw him open for the Moody Blues, and I know we all like the Moody Blues, but it was just not fair to them. I mean, they're great, but this guy comes out doing this stuff. He would cover some, he had some Hendrix covers. He did Voodoo Child and other stuff that I can't remember right now. Whatever. And he wasn't with us very long. When he started, he was born in Dallas, and I think he was born there. He grew up there, and when I was like in high school and a little bit of middle school, he was doing his thing around, and it's like I had no idea. And he kind of had his big coming out party with people like some of the guys from the Kinks and a bunch of people just at this place. There's this club. Do you remember Tango in Dallas? It was kind of it used to have the frogs on top and this kind of, anyway, whatever. It was a thing. I never went there. But all these famous people went there, and he caught David Bowie's eye. And so David Bowie had him play on kind of not Modern Love, trying to go Modern Love. Let's Dance. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for thinking of that. And you can listen to it knowing that, and you can hear his style. He was supposed to tour on that Serious Moonlight tour, but things where they couldn't get all the legal stuff and everything worked out, and so he walked away from that. But they did a rehearsal for that tour at Las Colinas, which is also in the Dallas area, in Irving, I think. And there's a bootleg out there, basically him doing all these different Bowie songs with Bowie. I mean, they're rough because they're kind of just run through like a sound check. But he died in 1990. He played his last show he died at Alpine Valley in a helicopter crash. Last show was there. It was this Chicago Blues Festival with Eric Clapton and I think Buddy Guy and some other people. And I could go on and on about him, but he's one of my. When I do the YouTube thing for this song "Couldn't Stand the Weather," I've always liked that video. So check it out.
So one time I remember saying on one of these playlists that I didn't like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it seemed like his music was a little self-indulgent and repetitive, and I think you might go back and quote me on a lot of that. But I have said before, song and artist on the right playlist in the right order can work. So I stand corrected. I love this song. It was great. And on a guitar playlist, totally works for me. But I'm now seeing the light as to the talent of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Maybe because it's Double Trouble that was with it too. Because I just liked how the whole ensemble, the way it was arranged and everything. It wasn't just his guitar playing. Guitar playing was fabulous and it fit in great. But it wasn't like before when I said what I said before. So I apologize to Stevie Ray Vaughan. May he rest in peace. You know, he's a great guitar player.
That he is. Yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan is like I've said before on this. If you're from Texas and you're not in your car and you listen to FM, if he's not on within the first 20 minutes, you're probably not really in Texas. You can always catch Stevie Ray Vaughan, whether there was that I always pick that up every time I fly in for Christmas or something within the first 20 minutes, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it was great, of course. I mean, he was just fantastic. And this song fits right in. Of course, the knock was always, and Hendrix, Voodoo Child, he's doing that. He's imitating now. He's just playing homage to another great guitarist, and he lived up to it, And then I again exceeded a little. Now again, he's another one who I wonder what he would be doing now. What kind of music he would have gone for, if he hadn't passed away. So yeah, another great choice. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan a couple times. So from there, again, Mike, I went with one of my favorites, my personal favorites, and that's Derek Trucks. I got introduced to Derek Trucks. First time I saw him was in a small bar. Alan, who was on the show, he took me this. It's called Bogarts, and there may have been 250 people tops in that place. It's in Cincinnati, and and it was, and he played, and he just man just blew me away. And from then on, of course, everyone knows he's with the Allman Brothers, and now he has Tedeschi Trucks. But I just thought he was one of the greatest guitarists. I picked Down in the Flood just to I always liked his early work. Again, there's nothing wrong with him with the Allman Brothers or Tedeschi Trucks. I think he's a little more tame, but he's one of those guys that when probably would, and I'm not probably argued, but probably the best slide guitarist around. And when Eric Clapton wanted to redo his Layla tour, he picked Derek Trucks as his second guitarist. I mean, he's just fantastic. And so anyway, Down in the Flood, that's a Bob Dylan cover. If you ever hear Greatest Hits Tubes, very rare song by Bob Dylan. But I thought Derek Trucks and his playing kind of captures a little different essence. And I thought I'd just throw that one on there.
Yeah, I like this one too. And you had I guess Tedeschi Trucks before, different sound, really. I mean, and you can kind of hear with the slide guitar on here. You can hear a little bit, maybe some of the sound he added to the Allman Brothers. I don't think I ever heard any recordings of him playing with them, but yeah. So he's playing at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. One of the days I'm going to be there, right? Here's the problem. I'm going to read you this. So there's a bunch of bands on Sunday night. We're going 2 nights, Saturday, and I'm going with my daughter. And I wanted to go for years. So on Sunday night, there are all these bands I want to see, and they have them all lined up at the same time. It is so irritating. Whatever they did, like if you go to Austin City Limits, at least back when I used to go, and there were bands I liked or knew, you'd always have like 2 stages. You really kind of had to make a choice. So here's what I'm up against. Okay, Trombone Shorty, you may or may not have heard of him. They played at ACL Fest, but then Tedeschi Trucks, Earth, Wind and Fire, Herbie Hancock, Mavis Staples. Hang on, I know,, Steve Earle. Hang on. Kermit, yeah, Steve Earle. Those are the main ones. It's like, how am I supposed to choose? And I think I'm going to have to go with Herbie Hancock. I mean, just because he's such a jazz legend, and
He's iconic.
he's also pretty old. I don't know,
Why don't
but
you
it's
get Herbie Hancock with one of those other people? That's what I. Hey, he
yeah.
could have fit in with any one of those, and that would have been a great show.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's true. That's true. But Tedeschi Trucks, I'd really like to see. Earth, Wind, and Fire, I'm like, it's only, the original, there were two main singers. One of them passed and his brother sings, and the other's Philip Bailey. Was it Philip Bailey? I think that's it. He sang on that that duet with Phil Collins, Easy Lover, and
yeah, right.
but so he's still with them. Shannon, my daughter, really wants to see them. I don't know. I'm gonna have to decide. Anyway, whatever. That's a long way off the topic here, but well, I liked that song quite a bit. Did I jump out of order?
No, you're good.
Not
Okay,
good.
sir.
So yeah, I like the Derek Trucks thing, and I know it's going to sound stupid because they're not really anything alike, but for whatever reason, because you've turned us on to a couple of different artists, whatever. I always think like Derek Trucks and Warren Haynes. For some reason, I'm always like thinking they're kind of in that same kind of boat or whatever with it, but they're different. They're different artists, and yeah, Derek Trucks. I did not know that this was a Bob Dylan cover. So, but after I listened to it and I saw that it was written by Bob Dylan, then I went and listened to the Bob Dylan version, which there were a couple different versions of it, but it was with the one with the band. I think was the one that I hit on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great song. I mean, of course it's Bob Dylan. I mean, he's written hundreds of great songs, right? But Derek Trucks taking this and kind of, I'm going to sound like American Idol for a minute. Man, he took it and made it his own, right? But he did. He had his own gravelly voice and style to the song. But I love the lyrics, man. Oh, mama, ain't you going to miss your best friend now? You're going to have to find yourself another best friend somehow. I love that line. I mean, it's just a great line of the song. Anyway, so yeah, it was a good thing. And when I kept listening to this thing, I kept hitting on this one as probably one of my top favorite songs on this the playlist. And from there, I didn't do this intentionally necessarily, but when we had Down in the Flood, and then I said, oh, Down by the River, let me go ahead and do the Neil Young. And Neil Young is a great guitarist in his own right, but I'll have to say, the things I said about Stevie Ray Vaughan, I have to say about Neil Young in this song, because he's just kind of just going off for like 3.5 minutes on a solo at the beginning or in the middle, and then he does another 2.5 minutes towards the end. So it's kind of like he's doing that same kind of thing. But the cool part is, and I don't know who the rhythm guitarists are on this one, but that's the cool part of those solos is that rhythm guitar in between where he's just jamming with him on it. And so it's one of those songs where, it's a great song, but it also has just a lot of guitar solo in it. So that's why I chose it, because I figured, well, hey, there's a bunch of guitar solo, but yeah, he does go on and on and on a little bit on that song. And so if you heard it 3 or 4 or 5 times, you might go, oh no, I don't want to hear this one again. But anyway, I hadn't heard it in a long time, so I threw it on.
Yeah. No, it's a great song. And just to go back a little, not to leave Mike out, but Couldn't Stand the Weather, Down in the Flood, Down Serendipity is how we do it, right? This is how we do it on the playlist, right? We don't plan it, but it happens. Anyway, who doesn't love Neil Young? Again, Dave keeps bringing up of course, every guitar god is self-indulgent. If not, they wouldn't be guitar gods. They have to be to a certain extent. Sure, they may be a little more humble, but what guitarist on this list isn't a little self-indulgent? They have to be. They're making their art. So anyway, and if you want to believe that all artists are self-indulgent. So, in a certain sense, you have to be, and because it's confidence, it's self-indulgence, it's what they do. And Neil Young is the king of them. I mean, he became the grandfather of grunge. I mean, he was his guitar work is they just love it. You know, all that, 15 minute Crosby, Stills, Nash and who doesn't love Four-Way Streets and Carry On, that 15 minute between him and Stephen Stills. He's had a lot of great guitar work. Yulia, but the song, I'll say the Fish song related to Fish. They played, Fish was playing Farm Aid in '98. Uh, they partied up a little with Willie Nelson and with Neil Young. Neil Young said he played Powderfinger with him. Well, Neil Young did his set first before Fish, and all of a sudden Neil Young's just playing Powderfinger in his set. So Fish is like, wait, what? I thought we were supposed to play that. So anyway, Fish starts, they start playing, and then out of nowhere, they're jamming, and out of nowhere, Neil Young just comes, picks up Trey's extra guitar, and then they go right into Down by the River for the next 15 minutes. So anyway, Fish stories are, and yeah, they play Farm Aid '98. So take that for what it's worth. I have it on CD around here somewhere. So anyway, there you go. Love Neil Young.
Yeah, Neil Young, among my rock and roll heroes, is probably top five. And this song, I know this song does kind of, he does goes off on kind of these just like, I don't know what you call it. It's one note, for this extended thing. When I had so I bought Harvest and After the Gold Rush. But other than that, I didn't really know any of his stuff. And like when I was just getting into college, by the time I worked at the Richland Chronicle, I bought Decade, which is a greatest hits record. I think it has a couple of maybe rare tracks, but man, I played the heck out of that. And the side with this has ends with Cinnamon Girl and Down by the River, but has The Loner, which I love, and then the next side it has Cowgirl in the sand, and Down by the River and Cowgirl in the Sand. They're like really longer songs, and I used to put that on and just kind of go into the zone. And if anybody wants to know what I mean by that, talk to me after the show. But I listened to that a long time and love that stuff. And he's not. I mean, he's not like precision guitar player. He's like, that's kind of his thing, that kind of ragged, raw sound. I mean, he had a record, Ragged Glory, but he's done so many different things. And, some of them we might think are misses, but, he gets out there and does it. I mean, he did Trans, which was like I don't know, new wave. I don't know what you call it. It was all like he used the electronic voice. He did some stuff. Maybe Devo was on that. He did some stuff with Devo, and he did Rockabilly with the Shocking Pinks and whatever. But he still keeps doing it. He did a whole album about electric cars, I think. So anyway, I love his stuff, and I maintain, and I will push for this. That I want to do one of those all him playlists like we did.
Yeah.
We did Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but I think any of those could. But he's one of my favorites. So anyway, thanks for the choice. So I went into my next player, who is I don't know if you call him a precision player, but a lot more crispness than Neil Young, and that's Brian May from Queen. This song is "Death on Two Legs," which is off of A Night at the Opera, which to me is my favorite of their records. Bohemian Rhapsody is on here. I think, is it "You're My Best Friend" or another one of those songs, and then some other interesting things. But he, Freddie Mercury did all his overlayering of vocals, like 24 tracks worth or however many, and then he would do the sum. Brian May would. I don't think maybe so much on this song, but it's just like he's just shredding it. I mean, it's just awesome. It sounds almost like has kind of influence of like some Spanish guitar or something like that, in part of his solo. And the only thing I'll say about him, one of the reasons I think he's such a badass is because he's also an astrophysicist. He has a PhD in whatever astrophysics or whatever it is. And I don't, so I don't know the word. But his work has been used. It's been some important developments. I'm just like, you know, what can I say? That's just so badass.
Well, I liked the fact that we had Down by the River, and it was like, what is it? I shot my old lady, right, or whatever. And then you get Death on Two Legs, and then the next song, spoiler alert, Bulls on Parade. They're talking about killing and leaving shell casings and all that. So those three kind of thematically kind of went real well together. The only thing I'll have to say though is when it first came on, I said, "Oh, are we doing piano now? What's up with that?" And then oh yeah, Brian May is going to come in here in a minute and shred the guitar and do all that. But Queen always has that. So a lot of times has that element of the piano. So beautiful song. Yeah, I like it. But when it first came on, I'm like, oh wait, are we doing piano or guitar here? And but yeah, Brian Mays is he's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you bring up the piano thing, Dave, because that's what I think made Brian May's guitar work so well. It fits so well with it, so beautiful, almost symphonic in nature. Maybe because Night of the Apple, but I think he specifically because he built his own guitars, so he had his own tone, and when you hear his tone, it's Brian May's guitar work, and so along with I think him and Freddie Mercury, he obviously listens and okay, how can I make my guitar sound to work well with the piano work? And I think that's why obviously Queens, has, tons of successes. So yeah, I don't have to talk about that. And then Death on Two Legs is such a great song. Of course, obviously it's about, the manager that kind of screwed them and took their money. And I'll just say, if you ever hear the live version, it's first of all, their live that double Queen Killers live is horrible, the worst mixed live. I hope they've redone it since then, but it used to be horrible. But anyway, they used to have that infamous uh, that sound, the bleeping sound when they mention him in the live version. Anyway, there you go. Put it out there for what it's worth. I'm sure Ron McCracken would give us a whole dissertation. So from there, of course, I went a little radical. Again, another newer person, even though he's not new anymore. I mean, Tom Morello, Rage Against the Machine, Bulls on Parade. Obviously, I put on their music before. I think he's a big fan, and I just think he brought a whole new element with his guitar work with that scratch. Almost sounds like he was a DJ, and of course, I don't think you rarely heard that, and that brought a whole new influence to bands that like, hey, what is this guy playing? I mean, this guy's a Harvard educated, very smart. His influences were, the heavy metal, but to come up with something completely different like that, to come up with a different tonal version, and then to throw in the power chords as well, shows off his versatility. So, yeah, and obviously the song is, you can take for what it's worth, the defense mechanism taking over. I mean, that's been a topic of conversation since Eisenhower. So anyway, but I've always loved this song, and I always think, it's emblematic, and I think Tom Morello just introduced a whole new element to guitar work.
Yeah, you put as a meeting that you put another one of the songs on, and it was a cover, right? They were doing
Renegades of Funk. I'll see if I put that on. I
Killing
think.
the name of killing in the
yeah.
name of.
Oh yeah, Killing in the Name. That's no. Yeah, that's not a cover.
Oh, I thought there was another one that was
I thought
um
Renegades of Funk before,
yeah.
but maybe
All
not.
right. Anyway, yeah, so I get to so I'm glad you did because I've heard of it's like there's certain people I've heard their names for years and I've like I really should check them out and I never have and it's definitely different than stuff I've listened to but it's growing on me and I certainly understand the anger behind the music. There's definitely some anger there. I kind of wonder. Well, I guess I'll get an idea of what his anger's like here in a couple of weeks because he's playing with Springsteen. I'm I did. You had mentioned before he did that Tom Joad song, that Springsteen song, and I guess with Rage Against the Machine, and I watched it, and it is wow, it's a lot different. But I mean, than the Springsteen version. I'm still wondering how they're going to mesh, those sounds. Will he have his own like little things, and then they'll do their thing, or I don't know. But
I think the boss is Bruce Springsteen. He'll tell him what to play, and he's versatile. Obviously, he'll throw in his own little different thing, but I don't think he's going to be doing stuff like he does, like this scratchy sound, like that he does on this. Maybe Springsteen's into it. You don't know, but I don't think the Springsteen crowd be going like, what the heck? What?
yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I think he's going to be shredding on Outlaw Pete is what he's going to do.
At some point, enough of these have passed since we've done that song. We're gonna have to start giving backstory to explain, Outlaw Pete and Porky, and just to name some of mine.
Oh, Outlaw Pete.
I put on a couple of Springsteen too. We all have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
Well, oh no.
No.
So talking about Bulls on Parade. So I know how we talk about how on Apple Music at the end of the song, it kind of blends the two songs, or the next song comes in or whatever. And I tried 3 or 4 times to listen to this, and every time I'm listening to Death on Two Legs, I forget to check when it's at the very end, because I always get confused, and it just goes from the Death on Two Legs, it's a totally different song. I get that, but 10 or 15 seconds into it, I'm going into the Bulls on Parade. I'm like, wait, what happened? Did we change songs? And it does it too. It did too. And I kept thinking I could catch this, and every time I listened to the playlist, I got caught off guard every single time on that song, just going from that one to the next one. And again, it was a way cool transition. I liked it a lot. My exposure to Morello is, that's going to sound weird, but what was the game where you had the guitar and you played guitar what?
Guitar Hero.
Yeah, guitar. Okay, yeah, Guitar Hero. My kids had that, and that's the first time I had any exposure to Tom Morello.
Okay.
So, I'm just saying that's how I found out about him. I didn't know who he was before that, but anyway, from there, I thought about putting on different Van Halen songs to showcase Eddie Van Halen. Running with the Devil has probably been a good one, but I ended up going with Eruption. I'd already played a couple of long songs already. The first 2 songs were pretty long, 7 and 9. So I went with a shorter song, Eruption, which is, I think it's under 2 minutes or something. But it showcases Eddie Van Halen. And when he came out with that sound, it was very unique and different. And the whole, what do you call it, on the fingerboard and doing that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I put Eruption on, and everyone knows it when they hear it for sure. So, yeah.
Well, if you're our age and you know Eruption, it's probably one of the best debut rock and roll albums that's ever come out. And I remember when I first heard it, because my brother came home, you'll love this, with the 8-track, not just an 8-track, someone had taped the album on the 8-track. So every morning for like 3 straight weeks, we got to hear Van Halen, first Van Halen album. The funnier part was that on that thing, he had also recorded a George Carlin album. So not only did you get Eruption, but you got some George Carlin jokes at the end, which of course half of them you didn't get at the time, but hilarious nevertheless. And of course, I like the fact that Morello, and then you've got because they both introduced a different style that became the norm. Some may argue, I will, Steve Hackett may come up with that little finger pointing, because you ever listen to musical box. But nevertheless, Eddie Van Halen, who said made it their own. So and of course, you can't go again. Even if you didn't like Eddie Van Halen or Van Halen as a band, or didn't follow him, even though I saw him a couple times, you had to respect Eddie Van Halen. I think that's why most people went to see Van Halen. Yeah, they had some great songs, but I mean, to see Eddie Van Halen play live was, that was a treat unto itself. So
Yeah. So did you mention Steve Hackett when you talking
I
about
did.
this? You did? Okay, yeah. At 71, he was like, I did it first. Of course he would.
Oh, I'm not gonna argue today whether he did or not. They
But
happen to be from Europe, and Steve Hackett just happened to play kind of like that. I don't know.
but I guess you could maybe argue in rock and roll, but I was looking this up because of that. And actually there's a very famous uh uh like if you talked about a violin hero back in the day, Paganini. I don't know but that's what he did. He was one of those that people actually, the rumor was he sold his soul to the devil, which will come up in another song here in a little bit, to have the ability to play like that. But he would do that kind of thing to do all these notes. So the only yeah, Van Halen, I was kind of hit and miss with them. I remember when it came out, and I like a lot of their stuff. I think toward the end, I really got kind of tired of them. I mean, I just think their quality fell off, particularly later on. But that's just me. And the only other thing I'll say about this is every time I hear this, it's kind of like you mentioned on the Grateful Dead playlist, maybe, that there's a song. It's like, it's so strange to hear that and not hear, like, Saint of Circumstance and the Sailor song. And it's this, and every time I expect it to go into their version of You Really Got Me, the Kink song. It's just, I've heard it's always on, back in the day, and then probably still today when it's on the radio. They go together, but it stands on its own. Of course, it's just crazy what he's doing there. Yeah. So I went to, okay. So Frank Zappa. Um, there's a lot you could say about the song's called Black Napkins, not to be confused with Black Page. Um, Black Page actually was got its name because there was so much. He wrote this drum thing for Terry Bozzio or Bozzio. Anyway, and it was so there. The drums were just. He did it to be like a pain in the ass to him. Frank Zappa would compose. He shredded guitar. He did all kinds of crazy stuff. Politically active, big on freedom of speech and anti-censorship. But this song, Black Napkins, it's on the album Zoodle Lures, which I think is mostly a studio album, but this is a recording of a live track, and it's just an instrumental. Most people who haven't listened to his music much probably know the comedy stuff mainly, and some of that you could argue is offensive, and I wouldn't disagree. Terribly offensive, actually. But his instrumentation, I mean, if he didn't sing on anything, I would love his playing. Jazz, all kinds of stuff. And these solos, I remember playing it for somebody once when I really was starting to get into this kind of stuff. And somebody's like, it's just chaotic. It's like he's all over the place. It's like he's hitting bad notes. And I'm like, no, he's not. I'm like, I got all defensive, but no, he's not. It's like his style. He actually knew a lot about music, which is interesting coming from kind of the hippie band he was in early on. I don't call him hippie, whatever. Mothers of Invention. He was also a real taskmaster with his band later on. He expected everybody to have the highest level of perfection, no mistakes. He would write music for them, and they would just go nuts. He was, I mean, like, oh, I can't do this. Well, you had to do it if you're going to be in his band. One other thing I'll just say, because I could go on and on. He would when he'd have tryouts, like people. I've heard interviews with like Steve Vai and people like that about how tough he was in these tryouts. He'd like give them something like impossible to play, or nearly so. And then if they did that, he would do this. He'd go this and this and this at him. And then one of these people who tried out with him was like, usually these tryouts will last about 15 seconds. He'd be next. So yeah, that's He's not mainstream. He wasn't mainstream, but he definitely had his thing going.
Well, this is a straight instrumental. There's no vocals or lyrics or anything with this one, I think, right? It was just pretty much guitar playing and whatnot. And you know, I've said before, I've never owned a Zappa album or anything like that, so my knowledge is very limited. I had to move out of the way so I could show the picture of them or whatever there. But from what I've known of him as well is that you know, he's not this classically trained guitarist. You know, he learned, he grew, he experimented, he continually tried new things, and I think that's what made him who he was and the uniqueness of who he is. And amongst his peers, you know, they consider him a great guitarist. You hear that a lot. But he wouldn't probably put himself in that same category because he's just freewheeling it. He's learning, experimenting, he's growing, he's you know doing all that. And like Mike said, sometimes it might sound like he's hitting the wrong notes, but he's that's what he's doing. But anyway, yeah, I liked the song. It was cool.
You know, I'm a Frank Zappa lover. Always have been. Actually, I want to get, well, okay. The first time I remember hearing Frank Zappa, you just remember, let's just put it that way. And I'll just say I might have been in a different world and happened to be at Richie's and walked into this guy's house. Nobody was there, but Frank Zappa's playing. And I think it must have been Joe's garage because it's going everywhere. And you're just like, I don't know what's going on here. What is this? And so, but it captured my attention, that's for sure. And I think albums like that and Black Napkins showed off his versatility. I mean, let's face it, he liked to make fun of people. So if you're going to make fun of people, you can make fun of their music by imitating their music and by playing their type of music. And he could adjust to any type of music and play it and make fun of you, make fun of society. You know, I always people always say, "Oh, he's a racist." He's just no, he just hated everybody. He picked on everybody. He's just that kind of guy. You know, he was one of those. We all know those kind of guys. You know, doesn't care, plays his art, does his thing. You know, doesn't care what you think, and you know, just continually put out great music. And like you said, even if he didn't sing or anything and just played guitar, I'd listen for that. So yeah, I thought it was great. And again, and I think I'll bring this up again, but you know, anytime you get instrumentals, and I put one on as well, and we have a couple on there. Sometimes you just got to be in the mood for them, and certain instrumentals will take you certain places, you know. So, and this is one of those that really it takes you a lot of different places. So from there, I went with and I made this choice, and I didn't know this was going to happen. I chose if I could have lied by the Red Hot Chili Peppers because I like their guitarist John Frusciante. I think he's one of the greatest guitarists out there. That's just me, my personal bias. I think, and some people will say, you know, the band went downhill after when he joined them. But we'll get to that. So I don't know if y'all have Netflix, but just so happens they have that Netflix documentary on the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is really good. And they talk about their first guitarist, Hillel Slovak. And then Frusciante is actually in it at the end, which I was kind of surprised. And he joined them at 18, when he was 18 years old, which is incredible to me. And I think by the time he got to the, you know, Stadium Arcadia, I think he's just one of the best guys. Now, he's had a tumultuous career with Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know, he's been thrown out. He's left. They got Dave Navarro. He's come back. And so, but I think his style is just, you know, so unique and always grabs my attention. I even have some solo albums by him. I bet you know, he put out solo albums, but he did. So anyway.
I got this album, Blood Sugar Sex Magik, was probably like a lot of people. That was kind of really where I started getting into him. And it was, I think, even some of the lesser known songs. It had that, what, Under the Bridge and some others, What I Gotta Give You to Your Mama, whatever that one's called. Yeah. But so this is his last album with them, right? And then Dave Navarro, and then he came back. Which, by the way, I think Dave Navarro could be on the list.
Of course.
But anyway, I guess he's he's on his own now. The Jane's Addiction imploded, not due to him. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know what else. Like the earlier stuff when the previous guitarist, I guess he OD'd, and they
Well,
did some stuff about him. That was where I first heard of him, and there was this guy who was just fanatical. Like the first couple of albums, was fanatical about him, and I didn't get it, and so I was really like, I almost avoided them. But then this album, and actually the album before this one too, was a Mother's Milk. They cover a Stevie Wonder song, and which is excellent, and some other stuff that I'm not remembering now. But this is the one that I really got into. So I don't know a lot about him other than just what I've heard. But fine choice.
I highly recommend that documentary. Really good.
I'll check that out. Like I said, I never really got into the Red Hot Chili Peppers during that age, but I probably only know like five of their songs. And truth be told, I thought that Under the Bridge was called "Take Me to the Place I Love." That's what I thought the name of the song was until I actually listened to it and went, "Oh, that's a different name of the song." Um, but what I liked about this song and the placement of the song is that it slowed everything down. It was a really slow melodic type of thing. And sometimes we think about guitar work and everything as having to be fast and furious and like eruption or anything, but no, it doesn't. In this case, it was slow and melodic and really, really pretty. I couldn't pick out the lead guitarist out of a lineup if you asked me. Um, Probably pick out Flea out of a lineup because he's probably naked. But other than that, anyway, it was a good song. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked again the fact that it was a little bit slower, and it wasn't just the fast guitar stuff we've been doing. So um, from there, I thought, okay, at some point somebody's got to put on some Clapton. Who's going to be the one? And so, at first I thought about, just like Layla or something like that. But then I thought, no, Crossroads is always a cool jam. And, going back to the Cream days. And so I thought, let's put that one on live version. And I don't know, it just showcases Clapton when he was, just getting started and everything, or not too long after starting with that. But yeah, he's had a long, illustrious career doing lots of things, but it all started back at the Crossroads, really.
Uh, Yeah, it's Clapton. It's one of the best. I had this album when I played it, so I played the shit out of it. But I played the heck out of that bad boy. And it was my introduction to Clapton, and then you gain Cream, and then I love 74, 75 Clapton, and my favorite's probably my favorite Clapton, even though he was drunk and probably a little out of control. But still, this is where, like I said, Dave, this is where all started. This is where this, and like part of the lore of guitar, the Crossroads. That's important in the lore of guitars. So just a great choice, and it's kind of like his breakout. He started singing more. He's about to start singing more. He's about to break out. So great choice.
Yeah, he's had so many different. I mean, it was the blues a lot, but he started going into other stuff, and he was just there in so many places in my musical library. From Derek and the Dominoes, Blind Faith, Cream, and he did one of the earlier Unplugged things, and that's a really good thing. Not everybody agrees about his version of Layla on there, but I think it's really interesting. And yeah, I could go on. Just don't ever bring up politics with him because he might say something outrageous.
He loved
But
him.
but yeah, and so the Crossroads, you kind of you touched on this, but I mentioned a Faustian deal, selling your soul for to get ability. That was supposedly the story about Robert Johnson at the Crossroads, and it's just kind of one of those rock or whatever blues myths out there. And so that's what this is a Robert Johnson song originally. They met at the Crossroads, according to later lore. I don't think he ever mentions the devil or anything in the song. I don't know. He says something about I think he gets down and prays or something, but whatever. Anyway, so I went, okay, so this next one, the song is called Maggot Brain. It's by Funkadelic, and the guitarist is Eddie Hazel. I put this on because of this song. I don't know much about his playing. He was there for 3 or 4 albums, and I think he continued in a lesser capacity, or just he showed up on some other albums. But he left the band, and I'm sure it was because of George Clinton. I can't imagine working with George Clinton. I understand he's talk about Frank Zappa being hard to deal with. At least Frank Zappa was sober.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so this song is just I don't know how long is it? 10 minutes and 19 seconds. It's just a long solo, and it's just parts of it are gut wrenching. You could say what you were telling me earlier, Jose. I won't take that, about what he was told to, to inspire him. But the only thing, I'm not a big George Clinton fan. I mean, I like the music and everything. I think that's him at the beginning, right, doing the talking. Like, I have seen the whatever.
Right.
I could do without that. I mean, my understanding was he was heavy into psychedelics and stuff, but just the music alone is enough. So I don't know much else about him. I know he has since died, but I've heard this. I think it was probably some of the first Funkadelic I heard, and somebody was playing it in the restaurant where I used to work. And it was just like I heard it and I was like, wow. And it's just like, talk about getting into a zone or a groove or something, listening to it. Not everybody likes it. I understand that. Right. Eddie Hazel.
Yes, I didn't know that that's who the guitarist was. I was thinking George Clinton. He doesn't play guitar at all, George Clinton, or
I don't know what he does exactly. He kind of rocks back and forth.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah, he likes those albums and he sings, but yeah.
when I first heard this song, I thought the only one I knew was George Clinton. So I thought, oh, was he the guy that's playing guitar? I didn't know there was somebody else. But yeah, it's a long song. It's got a jam to it. And is it Funkadelic? Is that the same one that did Chocolate City that we put on?
Well, Parliament Funkadelic. There's a whole thing about that. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think it didn't rot my brain. I enjoyed listening to it several times, and so got to appreciate it for what it is and how it is, and it's a jam. It's great guitar work on this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of Mike for putting this on, because initially I was going to put on something, then I was like, God, these guys, they always kind of get on me for putting on Parliament Funkadelic or whatever. Not that y'all mean or anything about that, but it's not y'all style. But to put on Maggot Brain and Eddie Hazel, he was just such a talent. And, just having fallen in talent when you have Bernie Worrell, Bootsy Collins, and George Clinton all in the same band, and Eddie Hazel all in the same band at the same time. It's just fantastic music. Great musicians together. Now, this song, Mike alluded to it because, truth be told, I didn't want to put it on. You can understand it, because it's like I said before. Sometimes you just got to be in the mood for some of these things, And of course, this is one of those songs. Let's face it, on the playlist, when I'm walking in the morning and I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh my God, is this song wrong or what? And again, it alludes to the story that when he was playing the solo, they said, play the first part like your mother's dying, and then play the second part like your mother's back alive. So at about the 5:30-minute mark, you get this kind of interchange there, and you get a little more livelier version of it. But just a beautiful song. And Eddie Hazel was a complicated guy. I never saw him. I saw Parliament 3 times before, and they still play a version of the song. I once saw Parliament in Cincinnati, and They came out, three guys just came out for the first 10 minutes and just played an instrumental jam that was similar to this. It was just, it's beautiful music. So anyway, I know you guys aren't the biggest Parliament fans, but
No,
no,
hey, actually, I have to. One Nation Under a Groove. It's I played that the album many times. There's other stuff too. I like them more. I like them more than you think.
okay.
They're different. Oh, the early stuff, like the really early stuff too.
But,
There's a
you know, because I was, again, I was raised on like Mothership Connection, you know, that kind of stuff, early stuff. And then my cousin who was into them because he was from New York and they played there all the time, he explains, okay, there's Parliament, which is George Clinton and the Mothership and Dr. Funkenstein. Then there's Funkadelic, which is these guys who are pretty much doing a lot of LSD and just doing this experimental psychedelic music, along with blues, soul, and jazz. You know, they infused it both, which makes Parliament so unique, especially Funkadelic. If you ever get a Funkadelic album, you know, you'd be surprised how rock it really is. So anyway, no need to defend Parliament Funkadelic. I know you like them, Meg. I know you have them. I'm not saying that they're not, but I know they're hard to take sometimes for people. So I followed up with my own instrumental. Now it was tough to, again, when you start narrowing it down, I had to like, I'm going to actually leave Steve Hackett off because, of course, he's one of my favorites. We can talk about leaving people off. So, but of course, I went with Santana. Uh, behind me there somewhere. I think my little brother took that picture at some point in 1999. But uh, obviously, the part of my life, Tales of Kilimanjaro. You could have got a lot of songs. You could have got him with the Mahavishnu Orchestra when he played with John McLaughlin. We could have knocked off two guitar gods with that. Uh, but you know, a lot of people obviously think of Santana, Evil Ways, Black Magic Woman, but obviously he's a lot more than that. And this is one of those instrumentals that people recognize it easily if you listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, I love Santana. I've the early stuff, of course, but this was '80s. He actually had a song that charted on here, "Searching," I think, and maybe I don't think it was this album. I had another one, "I'm Winning," that was around that time that got some radio play, like more mainstream, like pop stations or whatever. But great stuff. He was on my short list. If you hadn't put him on here, it probably would have been my next choice. And well, let's see. I was running out of choices after there was another guy who I did put on. Anyway, whatever. I would have been sorry to have left him off, and it would have been a big oversight for us to not. He had the song that I was going to put on is called Europa, which is more of a I don't know what you would. It's more I don't know, not really jazz. It's almost like a not a ballroom dance, but something like more you like in a oh whatever. I'm not gonna be able to say it anyway. The thing I love that song. I had heard it for a long time, and then one of the things I really like about it is the sustained note. He plays a couple of parts in there, which whenever I'm playing it, like say with I'm in the car with certain other people, I have to turn it off at that point because it drives people up the wall, but it shouldn't. Anyway, yeah, Santana, awesome.
Yeah, I think what I liked about this, there are certain guitarists and their sounds. We talked about that before. When you hear it, you know who that is, and that's a rare thing. You can't always pick out the guitarist, but I think with Santana, you almost always can. That sound is indescribable. But what I loved about this song, okay, so I know I got it's my own playlist. I know what the song is. It says Tales of Kilimanjaro by Santana. I know it's Santana. I know it's coming. And yet the first, I don't know, 30 or 40 seconds of the song, he's not playing guitar yet. It's just, they're building up to it, right? They're doing the drums, they're doing the other stuff. And I'm getting like out of my mind excited going, all right, when's it coming in? When's it coming in? All right, when's it coming in? Because I don't know the song or whatever. And then boom, he comes in and plays the guitar, and I'm like, it just blows my mind. Like right at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Santana. He's so awesome. But I love the build up of that song. It just doesn't just start with him playing guitar. It builds up to it, and you're kind of going, okay, this might be a Santana song, and then boom, when he comes in, I wish I could replicate the notes and stuff that he was playing when he came in, but it just grabs you right away. So I thought that was a way cool song. Loved it, even with being a full instrumental, coming off of the Funkadelic. So good choice on that. From there, I don't, man, I don't know why I picked this
Yeah.
or this group. I'm going to defend it. I guess whatever. There's probably lots we could have done. Like, where's my David Gilmour? Where's my, there's a lot of kind of things we could have chose. And people kept, I had this in my brain. And people say, "Oh, Prince. Prince was a great guitarist. Maybe try to find a Prince song that you can do it." Well, here's the thing about Prince that I realized. I probably listened to 8 or 9 or 10 Prince songs before I hit on this one. And what it is it's not going to be in your face at the 2/3 of the way through the song where he just flies into a guitar solo. It's subtle. You have to listen for what he's doing. At the beginning, he leads in on it, and it's pretty intricate at the beginning, and then he goes into the when doves cry and the normal song and the beat of that, and then later on in the song you hear him soloing again, but it's subdued. It's not loud. It's in the background almost. And I think that's what I liked about this song is that he could showcase that, but he's not throwing it in your face. He's going, "I'm Prince, man. I can do anything," And I thought this song was a pretty cool song and a representation of Prince as a guitarist.
It's a great song. Again, when you've seen him do what was the Super Bowl, he does "My Guitar Gently Weeps," and you realize, man, that dude is just one of the greatest guitarists of all time. And yet, this song again, Dave, is not like that. It's not explained. Now, I admire the choice, but of course, that show. But you make valid points. It's the subtlety of it all. I've always said, I didn't pick Jerry Garcia, but Jerry Garcia is one of those. Yeah, early in his thing, he was raw, but it was his subtlety that made the difference. That made Jerry so great. It's the same with Prince. It's the subtlety. I'm sure there's a lot of concerts out there where he showcases his efforts, just like that Super Bowl. Again, everyone was blown away. It was one of the greatest of all time. So yeah, it was a good, and I admire the choice as well. He's like number 8 on the list if you're going by the list. So how could you not put him on? And again, trying to find a song. Again, I don't know a lot about all his catalog or anything like that. So I can only imagine trying to find a song that was emblematic, and this fits it. So
well, and I thought about Purple Rain, but it was like 9 minutes long or whatever, and I've already played some long songs, and so because in Purple Rain he does shred pretty good in that too. But anyway.
Yeah, another one. Let's Go Crazy. At the end of that one, he really just tears it up. But I agree with you, Jose. If anyone hasn't seen the video from the concert for George Harrison, where boy, everybody comes out. Eric Clapton, his son Danny Harrison, Tom Petty, and so Prince was backstage, and nobody knew if he was going to come out or not. And then he just does, and he just like steals it, and it's just like it goes on, and it's just like wow. But I used to make fun of Prince. Like when I was in high school, it was the stuff that was on, and I'm like, I didn't get it. I'm like, he had the sexuality, he had the religious element. I'm like, what is he doing? I don't get it. But whatever, it doesn't matter what I get. I started actually listening eventually to his stuff. I'm like, oh man, this guy has talent. And I didn't even know back then the level of it. Rachel and I went to see him when he was going by the symbol thing, and it had to do with I didn't realize, I thought it was just an ego thing, but apparently there was something having to do with the rights to his music, and he was trying to hang on to, excuse me, newer stuff. But he did everything on, he humped the piano, he did splits, He was all over the place, and he did some incredible guitar work. And one of the things that really impresses me about him, and I don't know if this stuff will ever see the light of day if it's true, but apparently he had the studio downstairs in his whatever the studio was in Minneapolis, that his house had the studio in the basement, and he would apparently sit up late many nights, most nights, and just on his own, and there just record stuff, like all the instruments, whatever. And it's in a vault somewhere. And who knows, maybe it's all just kind of raw, kind of whatever, bits and pieces. But I could go on and on about Prince. Yeah, he had some kind of cheesy stuff, sure, but whatever. I had to. There was a good friend of mine, actually, a guy that I knew him in high school, and he's the one that got tickets to go see Springsteen. And I was merciless making fun of Prince with him. And I had to come back a year or so later and go, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. This guy's really good. Anyway, we lost him too. So yeah, I decided for the last one, I kind of like bring it home with something more, down, calmer. I don't know, just easier going. And so it's Going Home, which is a theme song from a movie. It's Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits. And so what I would like to have done, I'm not dissing this song at all, and I'll come back to it, but I saw him in concert, and it's just amazing. He just floored me. This, like, not making mistakes and just doing this like non-ending, just amazing guitar playing. A particular style, you definitely know it if you heard it. But I was going somewhere with that. But live, yeah, I mean, it took it up another notch, and I was going to put a live song on here, which this ends up being. But if we hadn't had Sultans of Swing on a previous playlist, the live version of that, you just hear his everything. So if you want to check that out, it's really good. There's a live collection out there. But this one, it's like it starts slow, it comes in with, and it's acoustic, but he's still doing well, actually it may be an electric guitar, but it has that kind of acoustic sound to it in parts. And it builds up, and it's not any earth-shaking solo. I mean, stuff that he could do. And I kind of took it for granted you guys know some of it, us three. We know what he did. And this is a song I always liked, the arrangement. I saw him one time, a video on YouTube of him doing a master class and teaching people to do this song. And just his thought process of what it went into it when he wrote it. So he's always been one of my favorites. I could not leave him off this list.
Well, it's a beautiful piece, and I think a good way to end the playlist, because we had so much other electric guitar kind of stuff going. And then I thought about that too. I thought about, we'll probably talk about this, but I thought about Steve Howe and some of the Yes stuff that he's done with the clap and other things like that. I thought about putting on something like that. So I'm glad you did kind of go with something little mellow and whatnot. Yeah, I like Mark Knopfler, like Dire Straits a lot. And who doesn't like somebody who can play the guitar and be ready to go play basketball because he's got wristbands and a headband that match? I mean, that's saying something there. No, he's great. We like him.
Yeah, Mark Knopfler is one of those. I was surprised he wasn't in the top 50 because I think he's one of the best guitarists ever. But again, I'd have to relook at the list and see who. You always have to say, well, who would you knock off? And then there lies in the question. So it's like, any list, top 10 list, like top NBA player. Well, who would you knock off to put in so and so? So, but he deserves to be there. Again, I think we got to get stuck with those stigmas, like Mike, you were saying earlier about Prince, like, Prince, and there's a clear division, and, again, the way that we receive messages and stuff like that, Prince, wasn't on the stations we were listening to. you know. Having said that, it's just like Mark Knopfler when they put out, or when Dire Straits puts out like Money for Nothing. You're like, okay, I guess, but then you kind of have this. I'm going to turn my back on them because I don't like the way, this is kind of stupid, and which actually it's actually a very profound song if you really listen to it. But yeah, you're like, oh, okay, it's kind of silly. So, but then it wasn't until I moved to Ohio, and then again, I'll bring back Alan. Shout out Alan. He gave me some bootleg disc of Knopfler and doing solo work, and you're just like, okay, I need to kind of reinvestigate this. So I'm glad you put them on. And like Dave said, it's a great way to end this playlist because there's a lot of great music on here, and it just brings it all to kind of a closure. Again, we had such a wide variety. We had the self-indulgent, we had the long ones, we had the short ones. We had the different versions. I thought we encapsulated them all. You guys, who were some of the people on your list that didn't make it?
Well, the two main ones we touched on before. Steve Hackett, which I almost and I'm glad you taught me out of it, Jose. I almost put in a Genesis song of Steve Hackett instead of Maggot Brain, and Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck, you can say Jimmy Page, people like that. He, Clapton, and Jimmy Page all kind of came from the same. I think that I don't know if they were all in John Mayall's Blues Breakers, but they were all in the Yardbirds. And then they each kind of went their own direction. Jeff Beck kind of really started getting into jazz stuff, and so he definitely was one. And I put some of his stuff on before, but he just died a couple of years ago. Dave?
Well, I mentioned, David Gilmour, and obviously you mentioned Jimmy Page and that kind of thing. There was another one that I was thinking of that, Steve Howe and yes, and but there's so many great guitarists out there that you can't hit them all. That's for sure. Another one that I had thought about, which was, I don't know where he ranks in the top, but I was thinking about putting on something with Joe Walsh and the Eagles, how he just changed that sound with the Eagles. I mean, Hotel California is a great example. I mean, the solo in that with him and Felder, playing that, I almost put that one on.
Yeah, there's just so many. For me in the heavy metal, Tony Iommi, I use no jam bands like Trey or Jerry. Obviously, there's a lot of good and dual guitar. That could be a whole nother double guitar bands. Like Allman Brothers. We could use Dwayne Allman. He's just one of those. There's just tons of them, like you said. But again, leaves us open to doing it. Part 2 or whenever you want. So again, there's Steve Winwood out there. There's just tons. You just keep coming up with them. So, but I thought it was a great first start. And I have to reiterate how I love the different approaches that we took on the different songs. So anyway, great times. We'll try to figure out what we're going to do next. But until next time, y'all take her easy.